Want a full desktop in a laptop form factor? Well, let's check out the Sager NP9873. Hi, welcome. This is Owner Disown and my name is Stephen. I have reached 5,000 subscribers and I want to thank you. It is a huge milestone for me. In fact, I think doing a triathlon would actually be easier than getting to 5,000. So every 1,000 subs I give a game giveaway. So once again, I'll be hiding the GEEK here in the video and you have to email me the time frame he is in. So for example, if he's in 10 minutes, 29 seconds, email me at the address in the description below, not in the comments, and the first person to get it right will win a game of their choice up to $60 either on Steam or G2A. So good luck to you. So today we are taking a look at the Sager NP9873 or Clevo P870DM3. It is a 17.3-inch gaming notebook that is a true desktop replacement, as it has a desktop i7 7700K CPU, which is a socket 1151. It is a quad-core, 8 threads with a base clock of 4.2 GHz, turbo boosting up to 4.5. It is unlocked so you can easily overclock it, and in fact I got mine up to 4.7 GHz. Now most laptops have a BGA or ball grid array CPU. Now this means that the CPU is embedded into the motherboard, so if it breaks, it's usually dead toast. Now this laptop has a PGA or pin grid array, and this uses a regular desktop socket. So if the CPU breaks, you can actually just put another one in. And I think this is huge for extending the life of your notebook. Fantastic. Now the difference between this and the updated P9876 is the newer Z270 chipset. Now that allows an extra 4 PCI Express lanes and official Intel Optane memory support. Now this has a 120 Hz QHD 5 millisecond TN panel, and it has very good viewing angles for a TN display, and the color shift, it's only noticeable when you tilt it backwards. Now even outdoors it is good, coping with deflections very well, and this is helped by its very good brightness. It is brighter than the Alienware 17R4 QHD, GT73VR and the Asus G701VI. Now this means that it's still visible at lower brightness settings, which helps to save battery power. Its color accuracy is also pretty good. It's identical to the Alienware 17R4 QHD and only slightly behind the Asus G701VI. Backlight bleed is also minimal. Now it's hard to show it on the camera, but it's safe to say I did not see it in any of my testing during normal use. Graphics wise, it has a full powered 200 watts GTX 1080 with 8 GB VRAM. Now none of this watered down 150 watt nonsense. Now with all that power, how is this bad boy cooled? So let's take a look. To access the internals, you start off by removing 9 screws. None of that, warranty is void rubbish here. Sager actually encourages you to upgrade and maintain your laptop. So use a thin card to go around the edge and pry up from the back. Now the back is made from ABS plastic and has thin aluminum sheeting riveted to it, so it is very solid. You can see the vents for the fans, but strangely they block part of it. Now I'm sure by removing that it would help with the cooling. There are 2 RAM slots available on this side of the motherboard. Mine is actually made by Gold Key, and each RAM has 8 GB of DDR4 2400 MHz, and there are 2 more slots beneath the keyboard to give a maximum of 64 GB. So here we have the GPU and the CPU, and you will notice that the slot for the GPU if you want SLI, and a 3rd fan to help cool the GPU. We have 1 large subwoofer to the side. The battery is 89 watt hour and is very easy to remove. You just unscrew 4 screws and pull it out. At the bottom we can see the hard drive that slots in easily. Next to the RAM there's a screw marked keyboard. Now remove that to gain access beneath the keyboard. To put in the second 2.5-inch hard drive, they supply a bracket which you attach and then slot into the open slot next to the existing drive. Just screw it in place and you're good to go. This is a great feature. Most 17-inch laptops at best only have 1 2.5-inch slot. I put in a 2 TB 7mm drive in here and it fits 9.5mm drives just fine. To remove the keyboard, push in a pointed screwdriver through that hole marked KB and the keyboard is held actually in place with two strong magnets. Be careful when you open it. There are some cabling, so don't damage the cabling. But underneath you have 3 M.2 PCI Express SSD slots, one of which supports Optane memory. You also have 2 more RAM slots and the Wi-Fi card. In my case, it's an Intel 8265. The design of the laptop is nothing flash. There's no red accents, but despite its chunky look, it still has a rather ruggish appeal. The chassis, I think, is made of solid ABS plastic. It is very solid. Perhaps the only flex coming from its single central hinge. The screen is raised slightly so as not to block the rear upward-facing speakers. Now, look at those speakers. They are huge and are the loudest I have ever heard to date. 85 decibels with very, very good bass. Sound is provided by Sabre Hi-Fi DAC and Sound Blaster. Now seriously, this is the best laptop audio I have heard and easily overcomes any fan noise, and the fan software is also very good. You can have auto fan, overclock fan, max fan, or even create a custom fan profile. At idle, the auto fan is a quiet 25 decibels. And at low, the overclock fan ramps up to 50 decibels. And the mighty max fan blasts at 56 decibels. I recommend, if you're gaming, you do this in an empty room. Since it is a desktop replacement, you are not getting a thin and light here. No. It is comparable in size to the MSI GT73VR Titan Pro. It does weigh more at 10.1 pounds or 4.6 kilos, and with a power brick, it weighs about 14.2 pounds or 6.4 kilos. Even though it may be too heavy to use as a regular travel laptop, it is perfect for moving from one room to another or even on the odd road trip. Now, connectivity, what can I say? It has this in spades. On the left-hand side, we have 2 Ethernet jacks, 2 USB 3 ports, a third USB port which is powered. You have a line-in jack, a microphone jack, a line-out jack, and a 2-in-1 headphone SPDIF out combo jack. On the right-hand side, we have a 4th USB port, a multi-card reader, 2 USB 3.1 Type-C Thunderbolt 3 ports, 2 mini display ports 1.3, and the Kensington lock. And round the back, we have an HDMI 2 port and a 5th USB 3 port, and the DC in port. I really like the keyboard and trackpad. The trackpad is smooth and uses Windows precision drivers, so it is very responsive, has good tracking, scrolling, and pinch to zoom. One thing I do like, there is a fingerprint reader to log in. Now this is much better than using Windows Hello Camera, where you spend half your time pulling faces trying to log in. The keys have no flex and have a good distance of travel. There's a separate number pad with the ability to activate the FlexiKey software. Within the software, you can alter the color of the keyboard. You can have full color or use the 256-bit color scheme. You can have all of the keyboard the same color or have it split into 3 zones. And you can alter the color of the lights on the lid at the back. You can choose various patterns, including breathe, cycle, wave, dance, tempo to music, flash, a random pattern, or you can create a custom profile. Other key shortcuts include increasing and decreasing the brightness and turning on and off the 3 different zones. There are no separate macro keys, but using the FlexiKey software, you can alter these to your liking. Macro keys can be assigned to a single key or to a mouse button to open up perhaps an application or any executable file that you wish. You can create a profile and disable it so you don't inadvertently activate it when you're actually shooting an enemy in the game. The Sage Control Center I find is very useful. Activating quiet brings the CPU down to 2400 MHz, selecting power saver downclocks the CPU to 1600 MHz, and performance to the max clock setting you have set. Now selecting these settings simultaneously changes it within the Windows power settings. The desktop utility lets you adjust the window scaling and text size. Bringing up device allows you to enable or disable the touchpad, the camera, as well as the Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. Clicking on CPU and memory overclocking allows you to see their clock rates and temperatures as well as overclock them. You can also adjust the CPU voltage here. It requires a reboot to activate. Now, clicking on the GPU overclocking allows you to increase the core and memory clocks, as well as independently adjust the GPU fan. The webcam is a full HD 1080p, and I think it is very good. So this is the webcam, a full HD webcam, and I hold up my daughter's colour rainbow to see if you can see the good colours. So anyway, I think it looks good, nice and clear. So this is what it sounds like as well. To compare against the Sager, I used the Alienware 17R4, as it has a QHD display, a GTX 1080, and an i7-7820 HK CPU that was overclocked up to 4.4 GHz. Now, battery life, the Alienware has a 99 watt-hour battery. It's larger, and it has a mobile CPU. So yeah, it outlasts the Sager quite easily. Still, with just over 2.5 hours of battery life, the Sager does do okay, and this can be increased using an undervolt. Let's have a look at CPU tests. Cinebench R15 is a good test of how well the CPU performs. As one would expect, the stock clocked Sager matches the overclocked Alienware, but overclocking sees a 9% gain. Handbrake loves many threads and clock speed. This test really does push the CPU hard and exposes any weaknesses. This is clearly shown here, where the overclocked Alienware cannot match the stock clocked Sager, as it cannot maintain a high clock rate. The Sager powers on, and at the similar clock speeds, beats the Alienware by over 10%, and this is doubled when overclocked. Using Adobe's Lightroom to convert 50 photos to a video slideshow and measure the time taken. This is a new test for me, so I didn't do it on the Alienware, but I did run it on my MSI GT73VR at 4.1 GHz. Now, there isn't really much difference here, just about 35 seconds between them. My final CPU test is a video rendering test using my Magic Studio software. I render a 1080p to an MP4 file. Now, the Sager, wow, it beats the MSI by about 50%. Amazing. So for CPU work, it's a no-brainer. The i7-7700K is the fastest CPU on a notebook that you can get until perhaps the Ryzen CPUs in mobile are launched. So this is a very exciting time. All right, so let's move on to gaming benchmarks. First up is Time Spy. Now, results are pretty similar. Perhaps the Sager had the edge here, but that is only because the Alienware got hot. Use a notebook cooler on it and the Alienware actually pulls ahead. Now, any score over 7,000 is excellent. In Rise of the Tomb Raider, we get great performance. I tested 1080p and QHD, so I can include the Asus G701VI. Also, the Sager NP9872 has a full HD screen, so this will give you a bit of an idea on how it would perform. At stock, they are all pretty much the same at 130 FPS, but overclocked the Sager, that faster CPU pushes an extra 4% over the Asus. At 1080p in Rainbow Six Siege, we see a 4% improvement at stock because of the higher CPU clock speed, but once everything is overclocked, the results are similar. In Grand Theft Auto 5 1080p, again you see the benefit of having a faster CPU, 9% faster. Alright, so with 1080p out of the way, let's move on to QHD. In Grand Theft Auto 5, it's incredible. An overclocked Sager beats the Alienware by 13%. In fact, it matches the Alienware 1080p score. Let's look at Witcher 3. The Alienware does a great job here. It matches the Sager at stock and soundly beats it when it's overclocked. Still, max settings at this resolution and getting over 60 FPS is a fine performance. Now let's look at Battlefield 1. It looks amazing on this display. And what amazing performance. Nearly 100 FPS at QHD. Max settings, it beats the Alienware 17R4 by 25%. It shows that perhaps you don't need SLI, but just a faster CPU at QHD resolution when using a GTX 1080. Now, this isn't true in all games though. Metro Last Light at very high settings has the Alienware and the Sager performing the same again. 100 FPS is amazing and is perfect for the 120Hz display. There is one game that did bring it to its knees, however, and that was Ghost Recon Wildlands at ultra settings. QHD averaging at 45 FPS at stock and overclocking saw 50 FPS. Now you can configure the NP9873 or 9876 with a 4K screen. One would think this would be SLI territory, and indeed for some games this will be the case, but not all. Look at Battlefield 1 against my overclocked GT73VR at 4.1 GHz, same drivers, similar GPU overclock, yet a 45% increase. I actually ran it twice just to make sure. Amazing. But on the other hand, Grand Theft Auto 5, we see a similar performance. 75 FPS is simply fantastic. With all this power, I measure the max wattage from the wall socket and the GPU and the CPU overclocked. I got a massive 360 watt power usage. The Alienware 1704 saw 271 watts. The CPU pulled 52 watts on average, and undervolting it brought that down to 46 watts. The GPU pulled 193 watts. There's no surprise then that this beast takes some cooling. Using the auto fan and no overclock, the CPU averaged 86 degrees, but was in the 90s for most of my tests. Marking the fan saw it decrease to 73 degrees, but still, Cinebench still saw a temperature of 97 degrees. It wasn't until an undervolt of 92 millivolts was applied that this dropped to 80 degrees. Overclocking the CPU to 4.7 GHz, undervolting and using the max fan saw a CPU temp of 73 degrees, which is totally fine. The GPU was even hotter, averaging 90 degrees with an auto fan and 82 degrees with max fan. Now I definitely recommend using the max fan when you're gaming here. Now bear in mind, a GE notebook, so I bought this from, was supposed to have applied a liquid metal to both the CPU and the GPU. So if you just get standard paste, be careful. Now the chassis temperatures were cool despite all these other high temperatures. The trackpad was 24 degrees, the AWSD keys 27, keyboard center 30, the number pad 27, and the back of the keyboard 29. Now underneath at the back was 35 degrees, at the front was 20, and in the center 30 degrees. To conclude, the Sager NP9873 is the best desktop replacement I have had the pleasure to use. Now it may be heavy, but it runs very fast, runs cool when the fan speeds are cranked up. It has loads of ports, has a great screen that is both bright and smooth. Now the build quality, it's solid and it has amazing speakers. The fact that both the GPU and the CPU can be replaced and you can say put 7 gigabytes of storage in there, I find is amazing. In a way, I feel sad, but for me, the crown is now taken away from my GT73VR and it will take something special to dethrone this one. Now, thanks for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.